Hi, it's Sue Greenwald with Awaken Stories here. I'm here today with Deanna Carr from the Mystical Moonlight. Hey, Deanna.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good.
I'm laughing because we always have a surprise topic. Like Dee never knows what we're going to talk about, so she doesn't have any inkling or preparation time, kind of on purpose. It's just fun. So today's topic, and I want to tell a story about this toward the end of the video. Don't let me forget,
Okay.
is vampires. All right.
Okay.
So
Okay.
the big question is, are vampires real?
Of course. Easy. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So where do they come from?
That is a good question. I want to say that they're their own race, but what I'm seeing is that they've been genetically mutated um to become blood-sucking vampires. But it is a way to sustain their life force. So that way they can last longer. Their body regenerates at a different speed than ours. So they have been genetically modified.
Okay. So they're from other planets, I'm assuming.
Yeah, they're from a different planet, and then they were I can't say the word,
Genetically. Yeah.
genetically modified. Yes,
Okay. Yeah. How long have they been here on Earth?
a very, 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 very long time.
Okay. Have they been here longer than humans?
Yes, a
Okay.
little bit longer.
Because from what I understand, humans have been here a lot longer than we've been taught. A lot
Oh,
longer. Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
So they came a little bit before, and then I guess the big question people are going to ask, well, how does that work? Not all vampires have to drink human blood. Simple.
We're leading to that.
Sorry,
But
I'm
yeah.
not going to say anything.
No, no, you should always say it because a lot of times I could forget the question or whatever. I wanted to kind of set the background of this, like why are they on Earth now? What, or why did they come to Earth is a better way to say it.
Most like most other places, they came for a refugee. Their planet was not doing too well, so they're seeking a spot to make their home base.
Yeah.
So they found this one that was somewhat like what they're used to.
Okay.
And so they settled here. And then it just kind of progressed from that. Now, um, they all have, different reasons why they're here. But for the most part, that is how they came to this planet.
Okay. So they're refugees. So are there different, I don't know how to say it, species of vampires from different planets? Like, you know what I mean? Like they're like cousins, but they're different species. I don't know the words.
It's intricate because there's different species, like you said, from different planets, but there's still vampires. And then there's also different levels of vampires.
Ooh.
Yes.
Okay, do you want to talk about those as long as we're here?
Okay, so there's different levels of vampires being what do they really eat? We have our initial, bloodsuckers that do eat human blood. Um, then you have more of your vegetarian ones that eat animal blood. So they do differentiate based off of that. When you go into their psychological aspects, it is kind of how they're represented. Usually, the ones that mainly feast on blood of humans tend to be more on the aggressive side. There's just a little bit of a differentiation between I want to say like chemical compound that happens when they drink it. Because they've been genetically mutated, it just sits differently for them. Um, then you have your vegetarian ones. They're a little bit on the softer side because they still have some empathy left. Um, and a lot of times that gets confused because when we talk about vampires, we think that none of them have empathy, but some of them still have that intact. And that also depends on what species they were before they got, transferred into that vampire state.
Okay.
So a lot of it goes into what they were before, and then did that empathy stay or did it leave them?
Okay, okay. So I want to go back to like setting the stage for more understanding of this. What abilities, and we're, again, we're talking generalizations because not everyone has the same thing ever, but what general abilities do they all have? Like, are they super strong, super fast, um, excellent vision, the whole thing?
Mhm.
Are they, do they have the ability to go invisible?
They're pretty much a superhuman. So they do have all those abilities. They're super fast. Um, Strength. Some of them can go invisible, and not all of them. So that one's
Okay,
kind of specific to that individual.
yeah,
Along with, the extra powers, it is corny, but it is kind of like Twilight, where how they have specific powers based on who they are. But not everybody has those specific gifts.
okay. I didn't really see the whole thing of Twilight. Like I watched a little of the beginning and a little bit of the end. So what I was getting from that movie, all right, summary version, didn't love it, but there's good vampires and there's bad vampires. All right. So the good ones are the vegetarian ones in this movie slash in real life. Do you
Mhm.
agree with that?
Yes, yes. I do agree with that. Now that's not saying that all vampires that drink human blood are bad. There are some that can control themselves. Like I said, it's something that happens when they get that blood that just, causes that frenzy in a sense where they want more or they just can't. It's like an addiction. They just can't stop themselves.
Okay.
So there are some that do drink human blood that are still good. It's more, I guess, consent wise, like the human knows what's going on versus, they're in the alleyway, they're getting killed, that kind of thing. It's more on a humane side. So there are some good vampires that drink human blood, but tends not to be. Sorry.
Oh, okay. So let's say a good vampire that drank human blood had a friend and says, dude, I'm thirsty. So the guy says, okay, go ahead and have, have a drink. Does that convert the person to a vampire as the movies have led us to believe?
No, it's not just a single bite that happens to convert them. Most of the time, humans don't get converted. There is something that transfers through. It is through the fangs. I mean, it is through a bite, but it has to be, how do I say it? It's kind of like a snake's poison. Like when the snake bites onto something, it doesn't always release the poison. It has to be like a certain mechanism that's, attached to it.
Okay.
So it's separate from just a bite.
Okay. Okay. So basically, if we'll call them good,
Mhm.
passionate vampire needed blood to live, and the human was willing, they could have a certain amount of blood without any, we'll call it negative repercussions to the
Yes.
human. All right. And about how much blood would they need to drink? Just curious. Like,
It's really not a lot, um, because their body works completely different from ours. They would probably need a cup, and that could last them a week.
oh, okay.
Like they don't need it daily. They don't need to feed as much as we need to sustain ourselves.
Okay. Like we have to eat many times, in my
Yeah.
case, multiple times a day, but we have to eat daily, pretty much. I mean, like we can go a few days without really, death, unless we're fasting, of course, but we can go days without food, but it's very uncomfortable for most of us. So we eat multiple times a day. A
Hmm.
vampire can eat weekly.
Yes. Not saying that's what they do, but that's what they can do.
Okay. Okay. So the vegetarian vampires, they drink the blood of animals, and when we talk about drinking the blood, are we talking about right from the source, or can they drink it from like a pouch, like of a donated blood or whatever?
Okay, so that's when you're getting more into this, the new age of vampires. Yes, they can drink it from a pouch. Some do drink from like I said, there's all sorts of classes of vampires. So the the ones that are more sophisticated and have more moolah in the bank tend to have the blood banks, which is the bags of blood. Not everybody has access to that. So for the most part, they do drink more from the source because they don't just have, access to get to the blood bank. Plus, if there's a certain amount of blood that kind of goes missing, that raises question. So they do have to be a little more cautious on that aspect. For the most part, a vampire could drink from said human and or animal a specific amount and they will survive. It's not like they have to kill the person to eat or kill the animal to eat. They just need a specific amount, they're full, and the human slash animal lives and they're fine.
Oh, okay, okay.
Mhm.
Wow, interesting. Interesting. So what about the blood that's been contaminated, let's say, by our recent issue in the past few years? Hate to say it out loud, if you know what I'm talking about. The
Yeah.
thing, the shot. So many of us, not, some of us have had that shot, and we're hearing all sorts of reports about stuff that contaminates the blood. Is that something that would affect the choices they make as well?
Yeah. It does affect the choice. There's some that probably don't care. It is what it is. Like they're just, they're gonna eat anyways.
Okay.
But some can, feel a difference and taste the difference, because it is contaminated.
Okay, because we've seen video where they show two bags of blood. One is like the normal color, like the reddish, dark red, and the
Mhm.
other one is almost black.
Yeah.
You can see the difference. So,
Yeah,
okay,
they would be able to taste the difference, but like I said, some of them they might be in more of a state where that's what they've got. So
okay.
they're gonna suffice.
So when they bite the human, unless they release a specific mechanism in that bite, it does not convert the human.
Yes.
Okay, all right. There's a whole lot of myths about vampires. Like one that they're afraid of the sun, they burn up in the sun. Is that true? Sunlight.
Um, I don't see them burning. I see it being more, you can tell the difference. Like you can physically see that they're not human.
Oh,
So it's easier for them to camouflage themselves in a sense if they stay out at night. And now that, the world's kind of gone crazy with, how they dress and how they wear makeup, it's easier for them to camouflage themselves.
oh, okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Interesting. Can they, oops, I'm sorry, I just knocked my computer over. Can they see their reflection in a mirror?
That they cannot do.
Really?
Yeah, so that is still pretty accurate. Now, um, they are able to get pictures. So I know that makes no sense because it's still a mirror. But they're able to be seen in pictures, but they're unable to be seen in a mirror.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Okay. Wow. All right. And do they sleep all day and then come out at night generally?
They don't need sleep.
Oh,
Yeah. So they tend not to sleep. They try to fill their time with activities.
oh,
Yeah.
wow. Okay. Do they have to procreate to continue their race?
No,
They don't.
no.
Okay. What is their normal longevity?
It's a long time.
1,000,
I'm seeing a lot longer.
2,000, 5,000?
I'm seeing the oldest one is about 6,000 plus.
Okay. Okay. Wow. So, in the books and movies, the vampire movies, usually they've lived a really long lifetime, so they accumulate wealth. And of course, they know
Yes.
a lot of people and is that a true thing?
Yeah, for the most part. Now, this isn't for everyone because you still have to be smart to be able to become rich with this. But for the most part, if they know how, it's just like any business, it's just they have a longer time to accumulate.
Yeah,
So let's say they have a wealthy business, they're accumulating, they're going to take that idea and continue it on for years and years. Somebody that doesn't know how to know what they're doing, they're not going to succeed. Maybe over time they'll figure it out, so they'll become a little wealthier, but it just takes them longer to get to the same aspect and same
okay,
point.
yeah. Because in many of the vampire movies, like they're all, super old, but they've got money. And I've
Yes.
always wondered, like, yeah, if we didn't die and have to start again, that would be super helpful. But,
Yeah.
like having that money in accumulation, and they probably, like in the movies, they probably do nefarious things for it as well. But it's just an interesting thought,
Yeah.
you know.
Mhm.
So, do the vampires control Hollywood?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
This is where, we went into that differentiation, but the bad vampires control Hollywood.
okay.
And
Yeah,
I mean, we always joke every time we see someone, we're like, oh, they're a vampire. Like, it's
yeah,
pretty obvious at this point. It's like,
yeah,
it's hard to hide. And there's evidence in many forms against a lot of the Hollywood stars,
right,
especially.
right. So a lot of these Hollywood stars, like they haven't aged. And then there's many theories about what they're doing
Mhm.
to keep themselves looking the way they did when they were 30. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But so could it be clones? Could it be doubles? Could it be they partake in blood? Okay.
Yes.
And that's, so could it be all of the above? But
Mhm.
I wonder what would happen. Like, so we have a famous person that's, let's say 80 and still looks like they're 20 or 30, how that's going to roll over to so that person can keep their status. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. And slowly they lose the status. If we become too, like, well, we're at that point where we're very aware.
Yeah,
I think vampires are more of the thing people know is real.
yeah,
We do recognize it, at least most of us.
right.
So I think it's becoming more of the thing where people are like, well, you're obviously a vampire. Like, just come out and say it
Yeah,
at this point.
yeah. Well, it explains a lot because there's a lot of propaganda. Movies and TV shows are all propaganda pretty much, not entertainment, not education. So they're able to steer our programming, the human race.
Hmm.
Again, there's a lot of fear about vampires because, of the myths and things, but they're able to steer what we think. And, we think they're just myths when they're really here.
Yeah.
Okay. So are the vampires working with the reptilians? Is there any teamwork going on there?
Yeah, there has been teamwork because they pretty much understood that they're both in it for the same purpose. Um, so they have teamed up. Now there's still greed. There's still, I want my share, I want more. So they're not always 100% cohesive, but for the most part they are.
Okay, okay. Now we know with reptilians, they have technology that allows them to disguise their
Mhm.
identity. A lot of times we're seeing glitches where we can see their eyes, we can see various parts of their body pixelate or whatever. So we're seeing the glitches more and more and more now. And so they use a technology to blend in. The vampires pretty much don't need that technology. Is that true?
Yeah, they can pretty much blend in. There's only
Yeah.
certain times where they stand out. But like I said, nowadays it's hard to, differentiate who's who because they're starting to blend in because people are dressing a little more, let's say, oddly, or um, you know,
Yeah.
there's some crazy outfits out there. That's all I got to
Yeah,
say.
yeah. It's capital
So
city,
it's
right?
easier, yeah, it's easier
Yeah.
for them to hide, even just with makeup, I mean, they could put layers of makeup on, but a lot of people do that. So it's not anything crazy.
Yeah, yeah. So they pretty much team up with the reptilians, but would
Mhm.
you say that the reptilians are afraid of the vampires?
I'm getting a no for that.
No. Okay.
I feel like if anything, if they had to, fight it out, the reptilians would probably beat them.
Okay. Okay. Do vampires have the ability to shift their consciousness into a new body?
I think they're working on that, but they haven't developed it.
Okay. All right. Interesting. So let's see. Is there any other questions about vampires or reptilians, how they work to control the planet that I haven't asked?
Um, I'm not getting anything for questions you haven't asked, but they do want people to understand that, like I said, not all of them are bad. There are things that are good that comes from being a vampire. There are some positive qualities that they can bring, and it's mostly to help the, I would say, health. Like they know how to regenerate. So there's things that they could help us benefit from. So, always thinking that there's these negative, horrible monsters isn't always the correct, partake on them. There are some benefits we could actually get from their systems. I'm not saying that they have to go under, microscopes or be taken in for, horrible lab experience, but there are things that, we could actually benefit from understanding them.
All right. So the reason I even wanted to talk about this topic at all is about a week ago, King Smarty shared a video about a man claiming he was a vampire. And he goes, "You're going to be interviewing him." And I'm like, "No, I'm not. Like, I don't want anything to do with him because my perception and prejudice is that all vampires are bad. All
Mhm.
right. Don't want anything to do with it. Not even going there." And he looked at me and said, "There's good and bad in every race." Now, he's only said that ever since I've known him. And I looked at him, I'm like, "Oh, you're right." So I actually watched the video and I was like, "Oh." And the bad vampires are trying to quiet this person for telling the truth about who he is. They don't want people to know.
Yeah.
So, but what Smarty told me also is that the vampires are from multiple planets. There's different like races or whatever you want to call it. And he
Mhm.
said the reptilians are afraid of them. So that's what he told me. So don't know the bigger picture yet, but it's very interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess for the like for the reptilians and vampires, it could go either way with that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
It depends on the level too. Like, if you're a new vampire, you don't know what you're doing.
right.
So you could easily become, afraid. But yeah, I think it depends on everything, but there are definitely
Yeah,
some good ones out there. They're not all bad. I think that's the hard parts for us to recognize because I think the other thing is we're used to just humans. So when we see another being in a human-like form that's not human,
yeah,
it scares us.
yeah,
Plus, that means that we're not top of the totem pole. I mean, we're
yeah,
not anyways, but hey,
yeah,
it freaks us out. I mean, it's
yeah,
natural because you're not the apex predator. There's
yeah,
something bigger and larger than you.
yeah.
And a human form, we are not the apex. We think we are, but we're not.
That's true. Like my first thought is like, hey, get off our planet, right?
Yeah.
Right? So funny. Okay, so we know that reptilians eat humans for meat. Okay, they use our fear and our negativity for energy, but they
Mhm.
literally eat our bodies for meat. Okay,
Yeah.
and it's one of the things we have going on behind the scenes right now. but the vampires are the one that are drinking the blood.
Yeah.
Do they delight in the torture part of what? Okay,
Some of them, like I said, it depends on the person.
okay,
For the most part, you're only gonna get the super negative ones doing that kind of thing.
okay,
For the ones that are, they drink human blood, but they're not the horrible ones, they're not going to really partake. They're going to, try to wipe memories. They're going to do things where they can subtly get the regular blood. And then you have the other ones that, don't partake at all. With, their vegetarian take in.
all right,
Um,
all right,
so the ones that are going to be involved with more of that torture aspect, they don't care because that's just, their mindset. They are more of the negative breed of
right.
vampire.
Right. But just very interesting topic, isn't it? Like, because we're so influenced by the books and the movies, what they've
Mhm.
said, and we just, all, even the cartoons, even Halloween, and everything.
Yeah.
It's got, so there's propaganda there.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of my goals is to break through the propaganda. Like, I want to know the truth. Now, I don't
Mhm.
always like what I hear at all,
Yeah.
but I want to know the truth. And I think, people watching this kind of do also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of information that, you said you just don't know. So you have this stereotype or
Yeah.
this original understanding, and until you open your mind to it,
Yeah.
it's a crazy concept.
Yeah. Totally. Totally. Anything else we should know about vampires and or how they interact with reptilians?
Okay, so for the reptilian part, they kind of have, I'm gonna call it like a treaty. So, like you said before, one eats the meat, one eats the blood. So they work together. Usually they're more on that negative side that's going to partake in that, but they do have a treaty that they're going to pretty much coexist. Not saying that there's not fights, not saying that something breaks out, but they are working together to get what they need.
Right.
Plus, it also helps them to cover up. So they're covering up for each other.
Okay. Interesting to know. So hopefully people, as they look around society and what's happening, they're going to start seeing the signs out there.
Yeah,
So, okay. Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
of course.
All right. All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Yep, bye.
Bye.